The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and quiet despair as machines blinked in cold rhythm, counting down moments no one could stop. The most powerful woman in the city lay motionless behind a glass wall, her life slipping away despite the best efforts of modern medicine. Doctors had exhausted every option, specialists had flown in from abroad, and hope had thinned to a fragile thread. No one could imagine that salvation would come not from wealth, technology, or status, but from a poor single father who had nothing left to lose. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of ordinary people to change destinies, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Evelyn Carter was known across the country as a woman who built empires from nothing. As the CEO of a global medical technology company, her name was etched into boardrooms, headlines, and innovation awards. She had risen through a ruthless industry with discipline, intelligence, and an iron will, earning both admiration and fear. Yet, for all her success, her personal life had slowly faded into empty penthouses and late-night work sessions. She trusted data more than people, systems more than emotions, and believed control was the ultimate form of security. That belief shattered the night she collapsed during a charity gala meant to celebrate her company's newest breakthrough. The diagnosis was devastating and rare. A progressive neurological condition had silently spread, attacking vital pathways in her brain. Surgery was impossible, experimental treatments failed, and time became the enemy. As days turned into weeks, the hospital wing reserved for VIP patients grew quiet. Investors waited, board members whispered, and the media speculated. But inside that room, Evelyn lay trapped between life and death, powerless for the first time in her life. Miles away, in a crumbling apartment above a closed-down grocery store, Daniel Reyes woke before dawn every morning. He was a janitor at the very same hospital where Evelyn was being treated, earning just enough to keep the lights on and food on the table. Since his wife's passing 3 years earlier, his world revolved around his 8-year-old son Mateo, whose fragile health required frequent checkups and constant care. Daniel carried exhaustion in his bones, but love pushed him forward each day, even when the world offered little in return. Daniel had once been a brilliant biomedical researcher. Years earlier, he had worked in a university lab, driven by curiosity and a desire to help people like his younger sister, who had died from a misdiagnosed neurological disorder. But life had unraveled quickly after his wife fell ill, medical bills piled up, and funding for his research was cut. With no safety net and a child to raise, Daniel traded lab coats for cleaning carts, burying his dreams under responsibility. Fate placed Daniel on the night shift near the ICU wing. As he mopped floors and emptied bins, he overheard hushed conversations between nurses and doctors. One name kept surfacing, spoken with frustration and sorrow: Evelyn Carter. Daniel listened quietly, recognizing the symptoms they described. Something stirred in his mind, a memory of notes scribbled years ago, of a theory dismissed as too unconventional, too risky to pursue. It involved a radical neural stimulation approach that had shown promise in animal trials but never received approval for human testing. Night after night, Daniel found himself unable to sleep. He pulled out old notebooks from a dusty box under his bed, flipping through equations, diagrams, and hypotheses he had once abandoned. As he read, his heart raced. The condition plaguing the CEO matched the exact parameters his theory had been designed to address. It wasn't a cure, but it could potentially stabilize neural decay long enough for the body to recover function. The problem was that the method required a level of precision and courage no hospital protocol allowed. Daniel knew the risks of speaking up. He was no one now, just a janitor with no credentials that mattered. Still, the thought of doing nothing felt heavier than the fear of being ignored. After days of internal struggle, he approached a senior resident during a late shift, carefully explaining his background and the idea. Predictably, he was dismissed, politely at first, then firmly. Protocols existed for a reason, and miracles were not part of the job description. But Daniel persisted. He wrote a detailed proposal, attached old research references, and submitted it anonymously to the hospital ethics board. Weeks passed with no response. Meanwhile, Evelyn's condition worsened. Machines did more breathing for her than she did herself, and doctors prepared the board for the inevitable. It was then that a desperate neurologist, running out of options, stumbled upon Daniel's proposal buried in a stack of paperwork. Curiosity overcame skepticism. The neurologist requested a meeting, and when Daniel stepped into the conference room in worn clothes and tired eyes, the room fell silent. He spoke not with arrogance, but with quiet conviction, explaining the science, the risks, and the reason he believed it could work. He admitted the truth. He had nothing to gain, no patents, no recognition. He simply could not live knowing he had stayed silent. Time was cruelly short. With consent from Evelyn's distant family and emergency approval, the team decided to attempt the procedure as a last resort. Daniel was not allowed in the operating room, but his guidance shaped every step. Hours stretched endlessly as he waited outside, hands trembling, mind racing through every variable. When the surgery ended, there was no immediate miracle. Days passed in uncertainty. Then, one morning, Evelyn's fingers moved. Brain. Activity stabilized. Slowly, against all expectations, she began to wake. The impossible had happened. Recovery was long and painful, but Evelyn survived. As her mind cleared, she demanded to know who had made the difference. When Daniel was finally called into her room, there were no grand speeches or dramatic gestures, just a long, heavy silence as realization settled in. The woman who had believed power came from control now owed her life to a man the world had overlooked. Evelyn's recovery changed more than her body. She listened as Daniel shared his story, not as a plea but as context. She saw in him what she had lost in herself long ago, purpose without ego. In the months that followed, she returned to her company with a different vision. She funded independent researchers, reopened abandoned projects, and created opportunities for people whose brilliance had been buried by circumstance. Daniel was offered a position leading a new research division, but more importantly, his son received the care he needed without fear of cost. Their apartment was replaced by a modest home filled with light, laughter, and security. Yet Daniel never forgot the nights he spent mopping floors, nor did Evelyn forget the fragile line between power and helplessness. Just before the story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what part of this journey moved you the most or reminded you of someone in your own life. Years later, Evelyn would often say that the greatest breakthrough of her career was not a device or discovery, but the night she learned that hope sometimes wears worn shoes and carries a cleaning cart. And Daniel, standing beside his son at a hospital fundraiser one evening, understood that doing the right thing without expecting reward can ripple through lives in ways no one can measure. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or made you believe a little more in humanity, please like this video, share it with others, and stay connected by subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories of compassion, sacrifice, and quiet courage alive, reminding us all that sometimes the impossible is only waiting for someone brave enough to try.